Hello, everybody. So, yet again, I've been arguing with scientists over this quantum gravity hypothesis that I came up with a few years ago on this forum, thenakedscientists.com. And yeah, this is in the sort of the new theory section of that website, of that forum. And this is where cranks and crazies go, right, to explore the new ideas that we come up with in science and to get shouted down by people who are supposedly scientists and who supposedly have sort of more knowledge concerning this area or the area that we're discussing than we do, right? So in particular, one person called Bored Chemist, I'm not Bored Physicist, is just making repeated pot shots at what I'm trying to put forward on the basis of something like, right, so when Hawking et al., which is what I said, proposed the Big Bang model, and then he said he didn't. It's like, I know he didn't. Okay, I know he wasn't the first to come up with it. I know it was Georges Lemaitre. I do realise that. That is why I said et al. In the first place. If you can't read what I've been saying, then there's no point having a discussion at all. And on a level, it has been somewhat pointless going through all this. And another one, Cryptid, is just repeatedly asking for, but where's the evidence? Where's the evidence? Like, well, the evidence comes from a few places. It comes from supernovae. That's one piece of evidence that could be leveled in favor of what I'm trying to say. Neutrinos escape some 8 minutes before, or they're detected on Earth 8 minutes before the light from the supernova is. So it means that some force there is constraining the escaping the light from the supernova, whereas the neutrinos escape straight away. Neutrinos, as the name would suggest, are neutrally charged particles. Hence, would experience no resistance from a field of electrons, because electrons have negative charge, neutrinos are neutrally charged, hence neutrinos pass straight through. Electrons interact very often with light particles, and would be reflecting all this light back into the supernovae, into the supernovae as they explode or implode and then explode. And then we detect the light after this short gap where we've detected a burst of neutrinos from that system. Another thing they bring up is beta decay, and I had an answer for this a very long time ago, and I did realize that would be a problem sometime in the early days of developing this model. I don't know really how I explained it though. I would say that the W particle involved in the beta decay exchange, that does come from background electrons. I think that's what I think about beta decay, and I think that the up quark is probably orientated downwards, and then the fact of it being attracted to the greater number of electrons near an object's surface causes it to spin, which counteracts the effect of the down quarks. And yeah, it does seem a bit bullshitty in a sense, but I think that we know neutrons spin, right? And I think, we still, that might be a way of explaining it. And the only reason I'm sticking with this model at all, or this idea at all, is because I think it's just got too much explanatory power, and I think it explains too many different phenomena. For instance, the phenomenon of dark energy can be explained this way. Huge clouds of electrons surround galaxy clusters. All the light is reflected between the galaxy clusters, and this is, all the light that's been getting emitted since the Big Bang causes the expansion of the universe that way via radiation pressure. And I'm not the first person to have come up with that idea. A Chinese scientist called Wang Chonghu came up with it in 2004, I believe, so a very long time ago. Or was it 2014? I don't know, some quite a while ago, in any case, is when he came up with it. But yeah, it's somewhat dispiriting to have to go again and again, over and over these same points, and to get nowhere with it. And once you've answered an objection of theirs, then they just turn away from that objection and go for something else. And it's very abusive, this process. The kind of abusive stock, asinine mental health slanders. You're delusional. I am open to this being proven incorrect. I would not waste my time with it if it were obviously wrong. Okay, I'm not an idiot. Or are you trying to say that? Are you trying to say, it's never that either. It's not just saying you're a stupid person. It's saying you're a crazy person. Like, why do they need to go for that kind of knee-jerk response? That's the response you go for when you've got nothing else to rebut somebody with. That's bottom of the barrel nonsense. It's also bigotry. So I don't know where this is exactly come from, and I don't think this discussion I'm having on this particular forum is going to go very far at all. You really need to stop aggressively posting errors like, oh, trying to turn it around on me for being aggressive. Doesn't help anything, is it? Why did you post this bollocks? Like, you are being aggressive now. Right, comment about tunneling microscopes. Oh, and this guy, he was talking about scanning tunneling microscopes or tunneling electron microscopes. And he was trying to say that bound electrons from the tip of the probe, the microscope, is what does the observation of the sample. Like, that is totally incorrect. And he's claiming he worked on the first scanning tunneling microscope in the United Kingdom or something like this. Well, then you should know that a current of free electrons and not bound state electrons is being passed through the sample then, shouldn't you? And I had to go over all this stuff to do with tunneling potential barriers and this sort of stuff also, which I have a somewhat tenuous answer to it. And yeah, a lot of this stuff is fairly tenuous. But then again, it's quantum gravity, so no one believes anyone's theory in quantum gravity, really. But yeah, I mean, fine, it's tenuous. But then again, string theory is supported by exactly zero evidence. Loop quantum gravity doesn't have a hell of a great basis in evidence either. Euclidean quantum gravity, I don't think has any basis in evidence particularly. And a lot of this stuff is, yes, speculation and rationalist conjecture. It's not supported by empirical facts quite so well. And I was bringing up my predictions about the muon G-2 experiment, because a muon is a negatively charged particle. It's a heavy electron, basically. And they're saying that the G factor, this factor in the wobble of its spin, this deviates from the predictions of the standard model when it's being tested on Earth. And it was tested in 2 locations, in Fermilab and in the Brookhaven National Laboratory, or was it the Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory? I can't remember which it was. But and there was a variance between those 2 results. So I thought, because of the difference in height above sea level, this would cause the difference in these muon G-2 results, right? Because the further above sea level you get, the fewer electrons you get in the gravitational fields. So this would cause a greater or less amount of wobbling this would cause the G factor of the muon to be greater or lesser between the 2 different locations. And if you were to repeat that same experiment in microgravity, I believe that it would probably accord with the predictions of the standard model, because there'd be fewer or far fewer tunneling electrons from the planet in microgravity. So that's just what I think about it. But yeah, the explanatory it explains dark matter potentially, this thing as well, because Mercury's precession, the precession in the orbit of Mercury, because Mercury doesn't rotate, fewer electrons from Mercury would be colliding with the electrons from the Sun, and this causes Mercury to shift on its orbit because it's less bound to the orbit of the Sun that way, whereas the Earth, the precession in the Earth's orbit occurs far less frequently because the Earth rotates, and this creates a force of resistance between the electrons in the gravitational field of the Earth and the electrons in the gravitational field of the Sun. So in the case of Mercury, for instance, when Jupiter moves to different locations, it could more easily influence the precession in the orbit of Mercury than it could the orbit of the Earth, right? And most of these precessions, I imagine, are caused in any case by the differences in the position of, say, Jupiter and the other gas giants relative to the Earth or Mercury or what have you. The Moon also doesn't rotate, or does it rotate very slowly? I think it rotates slowly, doesn't it? But in any case, it rotates not a lot in any case. And yeah, that would be caused by the same thing. It has precession in its orbit, right? The Moon. So that's that would be an effect attributable to dark matter. Put that on galactic scales. You explain the rotation curves of galaxies in that way. Stars at the edges of galaxies rotate faster because they're encountering less resistance due to a cloud of negatively charged particles, i.e. electrons, at the extremities of galaxies than they do closer to the centers of galaxies. And I think what I want to do with this model really is get it all written up very well and create PowerPoints and all this sort of thing and diagrams and so on, and try to make a sort of documentary about it and put it on the internet and promote it. I think that's the direction I'll end up taking with it. So yeah, look forward to that if you have any interest in what I do. So thank you very much. Bye bye. I love you lots and see you soon.